President Trump is delegitimizing Putin's geopolitical positioning headed into their one-on-one chat next week, but this time he's not doing so by repositioning nuclear submarines or providing the Ukrainians with more weapons. Instead, President Trump is negotiating the end to a conflict that is right in Russia's backyard that typically they would be responsible for settling. This is the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan over the Nagorno-Karabakh region, and this has been going on since September of 2023. The conflict over this area goes back over 100 years. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan claimed the territory as their own during their brief periods of independence from 1918 to 1920. But when Armenia and Azerbaijan came under the control of the Soviet Union in 1921, they put the Nagorno-Karabakh region under Azerbaijan's control, even though at the time it was populated by 94% ethnic Armenians. The Soviet Union did this because it sits cleanly within the borders of Azerbaijan, and the industry from this region more closely aligns with the industry of southern Azerbaijan. And some have theorized that Stalin did not want social cohesion within the territories that he controlled to quell separatist movements. But as the Soviet Union began to fall in the late 80s, the natives of the Nagorno-Karabakh region, again mostly Armenian, decided to separate from Azerbaijan in an attempt to join Armenia. And this resulted in a 6-year war from 1988 to 1994, which killed 30,000. And after that war, the Armenians controlled the Nagorno-Karabakh region. But then in 2020, Azerbaijan retook the Nagorno-Karabakh region from Armenia in a war which killed 6,600 and prompted the mass exodus of hundreds of thousands of Armenians. But it should be noted that even when Armenia controlled this territory, international law always dictated that the region belonged to Azerbaijan. In September of 2023, Azerbaijan laid full claim to the territory using advanced weapons provided by Turkey and Israel. And while this war is a lot less bloody than the wars we typically hear about today, like Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Gaza, I think only 600 have died in this conflict since September of 2023. It has waged on because there's nobody that's really willing to negotiate the end to it. Armenia doesn't have a way to win back the territory. Typically, the Russians would come in and help them, but they're obviously bogged down in Ukraine. While Azerbaijan now fully controls the region, they won't stop at this. They want Armenia to take out any recognition of the region in their constitution. So for 3 years, this conflict has kind of puttered on with no end in sight, and that's because the power that would typically negotiate the end and settle it, Russia, hasn't been able to. But since March, President Trump's administration has made it a priority to put an end to this conflict. And why this matters for US national security is it shows the Russians that we are willing and able to take their position as they engage in fruitless war efforts in Eastern Europe. Is attempting to gain 15% of Russian territory over the last 15 months really worth giving up their influence over the Caucasus region? That's something Putin will have to decide for himself. If the man is so dead set on restoring the Russian Empire, ceding what should be his sphere of influence to the United States because he can't handle it is not great. So in my opinion, this is a great way for the United States to diplomatically undermine Russia's position, but let me know what you think.